judge to use, but
yeah, but all the crap sides win away at Salford.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, I mean, for me, this was a story of left-hand attack, wasn't it? In this game, plenty of tries down the left-hand side. But yeah, you can't. I don't know. It was a funny one, really. As you said, from a statistical point of view, Leeds were right in it, and they've only just dropped out of it, really. And it was a bit of a classic rocks and diamonds thing from Connie, wasn't it? In terms of a great break and then just not able to hang on to the ball that kind of cost them, really. And I don't mind the frustration from that. I think I feel that for him, really.
He's a player who puts his whole effort into it, doesn't he? At
least he gives a shit. You know what I mean? He's showing that he cares about it.
Who were the big men for the Catalans then in this one?
I have to say, I thought Lucas Albert did pretty well at 9, considering obviously they didn't have their first choice hooker in. And I think between him and Da Costa, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think they did a pretty good job at keeping the teams going. Yeah, I mean, obviously Cassiano is a bit of a magnet in terms of performance, and obviously the crowd were very excited to get him in the game. But yeah, I mean, in terms of performances, you can't really look beyond a 4-try score, can you? Really, even though some of them were a bit easier than others.
Well, I've got to say, I think Willie Army hasn't been given anywhere near enough credit. I think him and Tompkins put most of the tries on, didn't they, for Yaha? And I don't think they've been given enough credit for the creative work that those two did. But any good kind of any good centre will feed their winger, won't they, and make sure they get plenty of tries. But yeah, no, I don't want to dismiss Willie Army's performance. It was good as well. But yeah. Any particular favourite moments from this game then? Other than from an atmosphere point of view, the introduction of Sam Cassiano, probably just at the right time as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think outside of the tries what I particularly liked. I've got to say, I think my kind of... I'm going to pick Connie having a bit of a strop as my moment of the match. just in terms of... Just the passion, as they call it, the kind of the way that he really cared about it, and even though, it clearly means something to it, which I'm not sure you can say about Merrin perhaps or Lola here perhaps as well. So yeah, he's doing everything right, even if the results are not coming their way. What about you?
I didn't see all of this game. I watched the last 20 minutes of the first half in a pub in Preston, and then when I got home and intended to rewatch it, I realised that it's not on the series link for some reason. So the Thursday and Friday night games come up on the series link, but then this one doesn't, which I didn't realise. Otherwise, I would have had more to say. I'm
Fair enough.
But the Simbin was totally justified. I did see that part of the game, and I was absolutely buzzing when Lucas Albert then went over quickly after, because when I first saw the scoreline, I think it was 16-6 when I first got to the pub where it was on the TV, and I was worrying a little bit for Wigan's position in the league table. But I was delighted that Catalans pulled it out, so that meant Wigan would very unlikely go to the bottom of the table in any case. And so it came to pass, yeah. Yeah,
small victories and all that.
I do think Yaha's got a lot of credit for not a lot of effort.
Well, it's one of those things.
You've got to be there to finish him, and he definitely did, as did Ash Hanley on the other side.
Yeah, quite. That's other than bringing the ball out of exit sets, that's their primary role, isn't it? So you can't exactly you can't doubt them when they actually do what they're there to do.
There you go. Okay, well. We'll defer to you again, Alan, to take us through the game down in London, London versus Hull FC.
Yeah, and I'll be deferring to the people that were there, but plenty of people got in touch. That's really good. So this game was London against Hull, and it finished quite close in the end. London 24, Hull FC 28. London were ahead at the break, 14-10. 2,257 people were there, and Scott Mikalowskis was your referee. As you'd expect with the scores, the stats were close. Only 17 metres between the sides, and both had 6 breaks. London made more errors, had a slightly worse team tackle success rate, and although they made slightly more metres, they made them a much worse average gain than Hull. Hull overcame a 13-7 penalty count to win. For the winning Hull FC.
About that penalty count as the
we'll see what people have got to say about that. So Albert Kelly, probably before I get onto his start, one thing that I picked out on this, he was probably the only player that looked less keen to make a break, other than Shenton did. For me, he looked.
Was he not just teasing? I didn't know he had that pace in his fat little arse these days, but.
This is he used to have it. I mean, he pulled it out of somewhere, but he didn't look keen. But he ended up with a try, 1 try assist, 6 tackle busts, 2 clean breaks, and 151 metres. Scott Taylor with 6 tackle busts, 118 metres. Danny Houghton, mate, 45 tackles. Josh Griffin, 2 tries and 1 try assist. For the losing Broncos, guy who looked really good from the highlights that I've seen, Elliot Keir, 1 try assist, 3 clean breaks, and 162 metres. Also down that side,
working harder for his team this season.
I read the start that
he worked hard, but Elliot Keir, yeah.
To talk about achieving a lot with the talent that you have, I think he's right up there this year. I think he's one of the first players to go over 1,000 metres this year. Really good, really impressed. Also down that side, Reece Williams, a try, 7 tackle busts, 120 metres. On the other side, Kieran Dixon, 8 tackle busts, 118 metres. Alex Walker, 10 tackle busts and 2 clean breaks. So a lot of achievement from the backs there.
Yeah, I seem to have lost. Oh no, it's here. Mark Wilson at WillowTree88, getting right into the spirit of SLP here with this game review. Went down as a neutral with my Wakey shirt on. Firstly, thanks to both sets of fans for saying hello and asking if I was lost. Good game. I thought London were the better of the two sides in the first half and should have scored through Dixon, bar him dropping it with the line beckoning. FC forwards got them the lead and held on valiantly, even for a few harsh ref calls towards the end.
And Sarah says, a mixed game down in the capital. Defensively, we looked really good for large periods. It was the penalties that killed us. Both the daft ones we gave away, but also the frustrating play the ball ones, where the player's trying to clear the ruck, but the attacker plays the ball into them. Good performance by Griff particularly. Tag led the forwards around well, with them all making good yards after collision.
I did remind Sarah that they pretty much won the game at Wigan off the back of one of those penalties. But it's starting.
What goes around comes around.
It's starting to become an issue, isn't it? And I don't know. I can't remember if me and Sarah talked about this last week. I know Sarah doesn't always watch the NRL, so I can't remember if I talked to her about it. If I didn't, but in the NRL, they seem to not be calling those as penalties, and I prefer that interpretation. Like, if it's genuinely not preventing the dummy half from picking up the ball and passing it or running with it, then I don't think it should be called a penalty. We need to do something about it, don't we? I mean, we're getting there's genuine wins at the ruck, and to be honest, the one for Hull against Wigan was a genuine win at the ruck by the Hull player. There's genuine wins at the ruck where the player is just, knocked out, not knocked out. Well, there was one the other way, weren't there? The Catalans Greg Bird one where he was literally knocked out, but where the player's just beaten by the attacking player. And to me, that's the same as when a defender dominates and gets to spend a bit more time on. Kind of the attacking player does get to earn that, but some of them are players stepping over players to play the ball into them, or dummy halves exaggerating it. We've seen a bit of that from across the board, not just Daryl Clark and Sam Tompkins, who were probably picked on most for it over the past, but we do need to do something about it. Do you not feel?
Yeah, obviously we didn't mention it, but there was one in the Catalan game, wasn't there? And I think
embellished slightly, possibly that one as well, one of those ones.
Yeah, but you could see Tompkins' frustration, but quite frankly, there's a bit of
It is the way it is, yeah.
A bit of karma in that one.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's one of those things that at the moment the interpretation of the law is black and white, isn't it? So we have this thing: if it hits the man, or there's a kind of a coming together, then it's an automatic penalty. I think what we're possibly asking is not for a change in the rule, but a change in the interpretation, so that there's a little bit more leniency in terms of if a player's if a player's on the ground and the player playing the ball is already up and playing it, then the dummy half knows that the player's there. It's not a surprise that he trips over him. So maybe there's a little bit of more leniency that we can look at in terms of the interpretation.
Yeah, definitely. And there's somewhere, like you say, there's enough time and space to sort of know what's going on there. The player's sort of giving himself up and not trying to make themselves small rather than anything else. But I'll always go back to the most ridiculous one that I saw, which was last year, I think, and it was Wigan at Catalans, and Romain Navarrete must have rolled 4 times. So by the time he's rolled 4 times, he must be a yard away from the back of the ruck, if not 2 yards away. It's not one roll's probably half a yard, isn't it, from his body?
Yeah, well, with his circumference, yeah.
And the player decided to play the ball, but hard, and then they let it roll until it hit him, and it just seemed like...
Yeah.
And they just tried, and they just kept chasing him to climb over him, and it just seemed like all they were doing was trying to get a penalty in that one, when he's, made that effort. And I think there's got to be a difference between when the player's making an effort to not interfere. We want to see the game keep going. We enjoy watching the game, not kicks to touch for penalties. But then when a player genuinely wins the ruck and the other player can't do anything but slow it down illegally by sort of not making an effort to get out the back, penalise them totally.
Yeah, I reckon if between us we watched 10 of these instances, we'd probably agree on 9 out of the 10 in terms of whether they were milking it or whether they're actual penalties.
We'd have to not watch them for Wigan games.
All right, if we watch neutral games where we haven't got our rose-tinted glasses on, then I think the same would be true of the referees.
Yeah.
So I don't see why you can't ask them to make an interpretation, because there's plenty of other rules where
how it is.
Yeah, it's not right. It's gaming the system, isn't it, at the moment? And
but the way it is, the referees will like the clarity of every time it hits a defender, it's a penalty, and people get frustrated by it, but no one can say that it's not consistent.
Well, we have that
difficulty here, isn't it? Because then we're going to end up with questions of consistency. So what we need to do, I suppose, is as a fan base, as a group of the players as well and the coaches, to sort of accept the referee's decision.
Yeah, I mean,
novel idea.
We had that instance, didn't we, a little while ago, where a slightly different thing, where the dummy half would pass the ball into the player behind the ruck. Yeah. And there was a few penalties given with that, and there was a clarification, and it disappeared. But I think that's all we need to do here.
Yeah, because it still happens where offside players sometimes get hit by the ball, but as long as the player's kind of throwing a pass that would go to one of his teammates,
it's not
okay,
just whacking at the other player.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's move on anyway. What did Paige have to say?
Paige says, tough game against a very enthusiastic London side. Poor discipline in the first half gave London their chances to shine. Fantastic try from Albert Kelly. I still say he was looking lazy. Yeah. A win's a win. But we will need to play better and be better disciplined on Friday to be even in with a chance of beating Warrington. Yeah, that's true.
Joshua's granddad said, twitchy bum time and just held on for the win. Mickey Mouse tried hard and unlucky to finish on the losing team. Shaw injury put Griffin at fullback, who coped admirably with Kebab's kicks in difficult conditions. Strange stop-start intercept from Kelly. 2 from 6 by Snide let them back into the game on the back of questionable penalties.
Interesting. So we get another perspective now from Dave. So Dr. Hideous says, asked at half-time by some FC fans how much we bribed the ref. I told the truth. I bunged 30 quid in the kitty. The problem with bribing people is making sure they stay bribed. So next week, the Broncos Illuminati are going to kidnap the refs' children instead and drill through a knuckle for each decision we don't like.
Wow.
Mean. Good game.
He's been watching too much Baptiste, I think.
Albert Kelly has always impressed me.